A Galactic Union council convened in hushed deliberation, their towering forms casting long shadows under the dim glow of holographic displays. Their agenda was singular: Captain Emma Kane. Her name had become a symbol of human defiance, a blemish on the Union's otherwise unchallenged dominance. Her bold tactics in a previous skirmish had humiliated their fleet, crippling their ships with guerrilla precision. To the Council, her continued existence was intolerable. Kavral, the finest assassin of the Ralthak species, stood before them. His presence was as intimidating as his reputation. His 6 limbs moved with predatory grace, his eyes glinting with lethal intent. The Council leader's voice resonated in measured tones. Your target is human. Captain Emma Kane. She is not to survive. Kavral smirked at the simplicity of the task. Humans were frail creatures, impulsive and poorly equipped for the galactic stage. His briefing painted them as a species defined by their chaos, prone to mistakes and reckless decisions. The Union had long considered humanity an anomaly barely worth notice. Until Kane. Meanwhile, Captain Emma Kane sat at a nondescript table on a quiet military outpost on Earth. The base, nestled in a barren stretch of terrain, had seen better days, but it was functional. Kane preferred it that way, hidden in plain sight with minimal interference from bureaucrats who had no understanding of warfare. Her team had dispersed after the last mission, leaving her in relative solitude, but she was always vigilant. Kane wasn't the type to dwell on past victories. Her mind was already consumed by the next challenge, the next move on an ever-changing chessboard. Yet there was a lingering unease she couldn't shake. The Galactic Union's silence since her last strike was unusual. They were regrouping, recalibrating. She had embarrassed them and retaliation was inevitable. As Kavral's sleek vessel pierced Earth's atmosphere, his confidence only grew. He moved undetected through its airspace, marveling at the primitive infrastructure humans called defenses. He knew Kane was here. Her reputation made her a high-value target, and high-value targets rarely hid in luxury. Kavral prepared his gear with mechanical precision, adjusting his cloaking system and weaponry. He intended this to be swift and untraceable. Kane, meanwhile, moved through the outpost with practiced ease, her instincts honed by years of war. She didn't notice the faint shimmer in the shadows near the perimeter, nor the subtle distortion in the air above. But something tugged at her subconscious. A feeling. A warning. She paused mid-step, scanning her surroundings. The desert wind was too still. Unseen and unheard, Kavral observed her from a distance. He analyzed her movements, noting her heightened awareness. He was impressed though not concerned. Humans were reactive, not proactive. She would not see him coming. As he prepared to strike, Kane turned, her gaze piercing the empty space where he stood cloaked. Though she could see nothing, she knew. Something was there. A predator had entered her domain. And Captain Emma Kane never played the role of prey. Karen moved silently through the dimly lit corridors of the starship, her advanced cloaking device rendering her nearly invisible. Her steps were measured, each one carefully avoiding the slight hum of motion detectors embedded in the floor. She felt confident, her years of training and technological superiority ensuring that this mission would be a flawless execution. Captain Adrian Wolf was sitting in her quarters, utterly unaware of the fate about to descend upon her. The ship's hum vibrated softly against the walls, masking the subtle noises of Karen's infiltration. Reaching the door to Wolf's private quarters, Karen paused, her heart steady. Her clawed hand hovered over a small, crystalline device designed to deliver a silent, lethal strike. In the Galactic Union's long history of subterfuge, such operations rarely required a second attempt. Inside, Wolf sat at her desk, her face calm, illuminated by the soft glow of her console. She appeared engrossed in reviewing tactical data, seemingly oblivious to the predator lurking just outside. The assassin activated her device, stepping forward with a fluid motion, intending to deliver the killing blow. But as she lunged, a sudden force repelled her, hurling her backward into the corridor. The energy barrier shimmered briefly, revealing its presence before fading into invisibility. Karen landed hard, the unexpected defense leaving her momentarily stunned. Wolf stood, her expression sharp and commanding. "You really thought you could sneak aboard my ship without me noticing?" she asked, her voice steady. The ship's alarm blared to life, its echo reverberating through the halls. Panic surged through Karen for the first time in her career. This wasn't how missions were supposed to unfold. She quickly activated her cloaking device and darted down the corridor, her mind racing to find a way out. The ship's AI system, a marvel of human engineering, tracked her movements despite her advanced camouflage. Wolf's calm voice echoed through the intercom. "Attention all personnel. Intruder aboard. Lockdown in progress. Secure all critical areas and stand by for further orders." As Karen attempted to navigate the labyrinthine corridors, she realized that Wolf had already anticipated her escape routes. Blast doors sealed one by one, forcing her into tighter and more confined spaces. The alien assassin's mind raced, calculating the best options to evade capture, but every step seemed to bring her closer to a trap. Her cloaking device flickered, overwhelmed by the electromagnetic interference Wolf had activated. The crew worked in synchronized efficiency, deploying drones to assist in tracking Karen's movements. The assassin tried to sabotage systems as she went, but Wolf's foresight had left her few opportunities. Wolf's voice came through the intercom again, sharp and resolute. "You're running out of places to hide. I suggest you surrender. Or don't. Makes no difference to me." The mocking calmness in Wolf's tone rattled Karen, shaking her previously unshakable confidence. For the first time she felt outmatched, not by brute strength but by the sheer adaptability and tenacity of a human adversary. Emma Kane wasn't one to sit idle. She had survived countless skirmishes, not by waiting for the next move, but by forcing her enemy's hand. Whoever this attacker was, he had come prepared, but not prepared enough for her to take the fight to him. She worked quickly, scavenging supplies from the outpost and arming herself with whatever she could find. Her mind raced, formulating a plan. The portable motion sensor had given her a brief glimpse of the assassin's location, and from the trajectory of his attacks, she had a rough idea of where he might retreat. She accessed the outpost surveillance systems, rerouting power to a grid of outdated but functional drones. They weren't equipped for combat, but they were perfect for reconnaissance. Kavral, meanwhile, was on the move. The detonation had damaged his cloaking device, and his weapon's calibration was thrown off by the human's improvised attack. He snarled in frustration, retreating into a nearby forest for cover. The dense vegetation provided natural concealment, but he knew it wouldn't last long. He needed to regroup and eliminate the target before she could counterattack. But Kane was already one step ahead. Using the drones, she tracked Kavral's movements, piecing together his likely destination. She armed herself with a compact rifle, a set of EMP grenades and a knife, primitive by galactic standards, but effective in the right hands. She moved silently through the forest, her boots crunching softly on the undergrowth. Kavral stopped to recalibrate his gear, cursing the unexpected resilience of his target. He had been briefed on humanity's unpredictability, but this went beyond that. Kane wasn't just reactive, she was proactive, relentless. The assassin found himself scanning the environment more intently, his instincts telling him that he was no longer the hunter. Kane struck without warning. She hurled an EMP grenade into Kavral's path, the device detonating with a sharp crack and sending a wave of energy that disrupted his tech. His remaining cloaking functions fizzled out, leaving him exposed. He roared in frustration, spinning to face his attacker. Kane emerged from the shadows, her rifle trained on him. She didn't fire, not yet. "You've made two mistakes," she said, her voice calm but firm. "First, you came to my planet. Second, you thought I'd wait around for you to finish the job." Kavral lunged, his claws swiping through the air, but Kane anticipated the move. She sidestepped, firing a precise shot that hit a weak point in his armor. The assassin stumbled but didn't fall, his sheer size and resilience keeping him upright. Kane pressed the advantage, moving swiftly to keep him on the defensive. The fight was brutal and relentless, a clash of strength against strategy. Kane used every resource at her disposal, leveraging the terrain and Kavral's growing frustration. She led him into a natural choke point, a narrow pass between jagged rocks. Kavral followed, his focus narrowing as he tried to corner her. Kane's trap was already set. A series of tripwires rigged to explosive charges detonated as Kavral entered the pass. The blast threw him off balance, his armor scorched and his movements slowed. Kane emerged once more, her rifle aimed squarely at his chest. "Last chance," she said, her voice steady. "Leave or this ends here." Kavral hesitated, his pride warring with the undeniable reality of his situation. He was outmatched, not by superior technology, but by a human's sheer ingenuity and refusal to quit. For the first time, the assassin knew what it felt like to be out of his depth. Kavral stumbled into the clearing, his armor dented, his movements slower than before. The human had inflicted damage, not lethal but enough to frustrate and humiliate him. He wasn't used to this. Every other mission had been clean, efficient, and without complication. But this wasn't just any mission. Kane had proven herself to be an anomaly, and for the first time, Kavral began to understand why the Galactic Union feared humanity. Emma Kane watched him from the shadows, her breathing controlled despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had studied his movements, his weapons, and his tactics. He was methodical, precise, and over-reliant on his technology. That gave her an edge. Humanity's strength had always been its ability to adapt, to find cracks in the armor of even the most formidable opponents. Kavral scanned the area, his advanced optics searching for any trace of her. He switched his weapon to thermal mode, but the forest canopy distorted the readings. He growled low in his throat, frustration building. "Show yourself, human," he barked, his voice carrying an edge of desperation. "Face me and end this farce." Kane remained silent, letting his voice echo unanswered. She had set her final trap and was waiting for him to step into it. Her makeshift charges, cobbled together from old mining supplies, were buried under the soft earth. All she needed was for him to take one more step. Kavral moved cautiously, his instincts warning him of danger. But his pride overrode his caution. He couldn't retreat, not now. Not after coming this far. He advanced, his plasma blade casting an eerie glow over the forest floor. The explosion was sudden and deafening. The ground beneath Kavral erupted, throwing him backward and slamming him into a tree. His armor absorbed most of the impact, but he was disoriented, his systems glitching. Kane emerged from the shadows, her rifle trained on him. For a moment, neither moved. Kavral struggled to rise, his imposing figure diminished but still dangerous. Kane kept her aim steady, her expression hard. "You underestimated us," she said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You thought this would be easy. That we're weak, fragile, predictable." She stepped closer, her finger hovering over the trigger. "You were wrong." Kavral growled, his pride refusing to let him submit. "You are an anomaly," he spat, his tone dripping with disdain. "A fluke. The rest of your kind will surprise you," Kane interrupted. "Every single time." For a moment, it seemed she might finish him. Her finger tightened on the trigger, but then she lowered the rifle. Killing him wasn't the point. Sending a message was. "Go back to your council," she said, her voice cold. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them what happens when you come for us." Kavral stared at her, his pride warring with the undeniable reality of his defeat. Slowly, he activated his emergency beacon, signaling for extraction. He didn't speak as he was lifted into the air by his ship, but his mind raced. This human had not only beaten him but had done so with ingenuity and defiance that he couldn't comprehend. As the ship disappeared into the sky, Kane watched it go, her grip on the rifle loosening. She felt the weight of what had just transpired but allowed herself no relief. She knew this was only the beginning. Turning back toward the outpost, she muttered to herself, "Let them come. We'll be ready."